Hello, guys. Hey, this is Jag. Hope you guys having a really good Wednesday afternoon. Some of you guys messaged me that he can't make it today, so hoping some of you guys can make it. Right. So we're gonna get started pretty soon. I'm just waiting for a few other guys to jump on this call before we get started. So just to give the other guys a couple of minutes. So we're going to talk about a very interesting topic today called "What's Stopping You Right Now?" And some of you guys are at a different level. So I really want to talk this through today because that's what was stopping me um, about the starting of this year. And it stopped me a few times. So I just want to go through that so you guys can understand that. All right, let's see who's coming. Just give it a couple of more minutes, and I'm going to start this new way of doing things. Last time I looked at it, the videos are not coming up really well when I'm sharing the screen, and some of you guys' videos are popping up on the screen. So I'm changing this to webinar so you guys can actually see it really well when this is a recording version of that. All right, 6:01. Let's get started, guys. I think it's a perfect time. So if you guys are here, welcome, welcome. I wouldn't be able to speak to you. You'll be able to type things in, which is awesome. So let me set it up so I can actually see your chat as well. Give me a minute. All right, so I've got that set up. So what I want to talk about today. So today is the topic is what's stopping you right now, right? There's so many of you guys are at different state of the business right now, and you're doing different things. And I want to sort of go through this just to give you a bit of information where I've gone through the journey. So remember, everything what we do is journey, right? So it's sort of taking us to the next level, whatever that next level be for your business, for your life, wherever you at right now. So we all are sort of looking to get to the next level. So this is what happened to me to get to my next level. So I want to share that journey with you guys into this space as well. So let's get started. Let me sort of put this PowerPoint in a presentation mode before we get started. So let's do this. All right. So the first and the topic in this one is what is stopping you right now. So if you guys, excuse me, if you guys are already doing stuff, right? So you're working at Step Space, you already started the business. I've seen people, some of you guys are at different space and sort of there is something is happening right now in your business, which is stopping you today. And I want to talk that through and I want to give you that information, what is sort of happening in the moment. So let's have a look very quickly. So number one thing is the doubt, right? So this is the biggest killer of any business, of anything you're doing. So whenever there is a doubt in your mind, whenever there is some sort of doubt, what happens is it makes you at the space where you don't take any action. So you're going to be stopping and you will won't take any action at all because the doubt sort of creeps in. So doubt could come is when you made 5 6 calls and everybody said no. When you do a presentation, people don't buy it. When you're doing a research, you don't find anything in that space. When you sort of try different methods, and when people come up and say no. So I'm going to talk that through today and give you a bit of really good science behind it, what happens, so that when this kind of doubt creeps in, so you understand what's happening behind it as well, because it's really logically you need to understand it, and also you need to be in that space where you can handle this. So remember this. This is whenever there is a doubt, you won't take any action. So what I'm trying to do by showing you this today, by talking you through this today, is whenever you know how to get out of this doubt. What are the things you're having this, or what are the things happening, and you having this doubt? So number one thing is you got to remember that this is the way our life works, right? So this is the graph, pretty much the way the life is today. It's, you can say, a life of an entrepreneur. You can say a life of an employee. This is the way the life is overall, right? So we have ups and downs in the life. So just look at the graph. If I sort of may talk about the top. So sometimes what happens is, let's look at the perspective of a business here. So because we're all going to talk about the business perspective, so I'm going to just concentrate on that only from this side, that what is the business space, right, in this graph or in this context. So if you look at the top high, right, so this is sometimes what happens is you do 5 calls or 5 sales calls, and everybody comes back and say, yes, I love it, I'm going to buy it. So you pretty much have a close rate 50%, 60% of the time. So this is right at the top, right? So you started something and everybody started to buy from you, and you had that space, and then you started to think in that space, holy shit, everything is working really well. I've hit a jackpot and I love it. Everybody's buying from me today, and I'm sort of loving the journey. This is what happens when you're top, right? Sometime what happens is you're right at the bottom as well, right? Sometime you're right here in the bottom of the graph. What it means is you called 5 people, you called 6 people, and all of them said no to you. They don't want to buy from you. They don't want to hear from you. Your Facebook ads are not working. All that sort of stuff started to happen. So what happens is when you're right here, right at the bottom, when you're trying to call to people, trying to book in appointments, trying to go into the meetings, trying to sell stuff, trying to sell your services or your product, when you're right at the bottom of the graph, when people started to say no to you, one of the biggest things happened at the time, the doubt creeps in. The doubt creeps in at the time means that, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? Do I have the best product? Do I have the best offer? Do I need to change my script? Do I need to change something in that space? So when that doubt creeps in at that space, what happens is whenever you make any call after that, that your state of mind is really visible for people. They could see it, that you don't have the belief or something is going on in the back of your mind when you go to the third client. Say, for example, your 5 clients said no in that space, you're right at the bottom of the graph. And when you want to go to the client number 6, and you started to believe in that space that your script is not right, or your presentation is not right, or your offer is not right, in that space, then you started to believe that. And then you go to number 6 client, and then you have that belief that something is lacking in that space. You wouldn't be 100% in front of number 6, and he'll be able to see it or she'll be able to see it. That's why the number 6 sale won't happen anyway. So what happens is it's a downward spiral, right? So you just keep going down and down and down and down. At the end of the day, you're going to shut down your business because you're going to make yourself believe that things just don't work and nothing is working in that space. And that's where the problem comes is a lot of entrepreneurs get caught into that downward spiral. And they just keep going down and down and down. When you're right at the bottom, you started to say to yourself, holy shit, my things are not working. My script is not right. Maybe I'm not speaking well. Maybe I don't look well. Things are not right at this space. Something is going on. And when you know that things are not right and you started to tell your mind at the time and you have the state of mind which is saying that something is lacking, what's going to happen is whenever you go to the next one, they'll be able to see the lack. You feel the lackness in that space, if there is a word. And then you feel the lack in that space, and then you go to the next one and you believe that, and the next one is going to be again going to say no, right? So that's where the problem is going to come. When that happens, then it's a bigger problem. Hey, Marie, welcome to the call. So we've been, just give me a second. So that's where the problem is. So sorry, Marie, if you want to chat, if you got a question, please type it in the chat. Today we won't be able to speak in the space just because the video was interrupting everything. So, all right. So what happens is in the space is whenever you are trying to get anything done in that downward spiral and things are not working out for you the way you want it to work out, and then you started to believe that and you started to change your state of mind. And that time is the most important time. You need to realize it, why that happened. So let's talk about it. Why does that happen, right? So let me give you a very quick example in that space. It's called regression towards the mean. What it actually means is, if I go back, so in this state, the regression towards mean is when you go in and look at this graph, things are going up and down, up and down, and up and down. There's a line in the middle, which is called an average, right? This is a regression. Means that the average of that will be going forward, will stay an average in that mean, right? So you'll stay in the middle or you go upwards depending how you do it. So the perfect way to actually explain that, what it means is if you toss a coin, if you want to toss a coin, what happens is if you talk about maths and talk about probability in that space, what happens is if there is a math behind it, you say if it's a heads or tail, it's a 50-50 chance to come heads or 50% chance coming a tail when you sort of toss a coin. But what happens is it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes what happens is whenever you toss a coin, it's going to be heads, heads, heads. Sometimes it tails and then heads, heads, heads. Then sometimes it's tails and tails and tails and tails. It not always heads and tails, heads and tails, heads and tails. It doesn't work like that. It's always one or the other. But for a long run, it's like a regression towards mean. What it means is it happens like this. It's an average. It's a probability theory. At the end, it's a more likely to be 50-50, but it doesn't mean it's going to be 100% 50-50 all the time, right? So this is what happened to our life as well. Whenever you make calls, whenever you speak to people, whenever you do presentation, whenever you're trying to sell something in that space, you always believe that, that whenever you make 6 calls, whenever you make 5 calls, whenever you make 10 calls, that everybody has to say yes in that space. But people don't always say yes. The first 5 or 6 calls, you might just ended up getting no from everybody. But in that mind, you need to keep that in mind. It's the law of probability, and that works in that space, that there is a thing called regression towards mean, that you need to have enough data to make that call. So don't just start to have that, what do you call, doubt creeps in your mind at the time. Whenever you have a doubt, you won't take any action. So you have to do enough sales calls to find out exactly whether it works or not. So everyone has their own opinion about your business. So remember one thing, right? So whenever you speak to somebody about your business, whenever you speak to somebody about your idea, depending who you're speaking to, everybody is going to give you their opinion. It's not a good or bad. It's just people like to help each other. They're going to say to you, this is not going to work out. Things not going to be happening. You are stupid of doing it. Shouldn't be doing this kind of stuff. A lot of people give you their own opinion, and that's good enough, right? So, but you got to understand it. You need to accept the opinion of those people, number one, who are either your clients or your potential clients or your mentors. Everybody else out there, their opinion is their opinion. So you need to listen to them, but learn to ignore them as well. So you only listen to the people and understand the people who you believe they are your mentors, who you want your life to be like. Say, for example, somebody says to me that, Jag, you need to do marketing this way, but that person has never done a marketing. He doesn't understand the business. He doesn't run any sort of business at all. He just works for somebody else, and he's coming and giving me advice about how to do a marketing about my business. So I'm happy to listen to, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to go and apply to that into my business, just because my belief is either I need to listen to my mentors or either I need to listen to my potential clients, the people who are going to buy from me at the end of the day. If people are going to buy from me at the end of the day and they telling me something, I need to listen to them because they are my potential client. They're telling me something that either good, bad, ugly, whatever it is, that about my business is not right or not, I need to improve in that space, which is happy to listen to because that's the people you need to work with, right? So just be mindful that people will give you a lot of opinions. Don't accept everybody's opinion. Don't let everybody else's opinion make your reality, because whenever they say something, it doesn't mean it's a right or wrong. It's just their opinion. So need to understand from that perspective as well, right? So let me talk about your most important asset today, right? So a lot of people have this belief, and people think that, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, our most important asset is the experience or the training that they've done or the money I've got in my bank account or my websites, my funnels, my experience in that space. All that people believe that that's their important asset. Yes, they are good enough. They need to have it. Some of the things you might not. You just get it from other people. Like, say, for example, I'm not good at Facebook ads. So it doesn't mean that I need to go out and become an expert in Facebook ads. I can actually go out and hire people who are in that space. So what's as an entrepreneur, your most important asset is? I truly believe that your most important asset is your state of mind. Your state of mind dictates where you at in your business. If your state of mind goes up and down, if your emotions goes up and down pretty much 24/7, it's going to be really hard to run a business, because business doesn't get run based on the emotions. Business gets run based on the data. So if you need to, so this is what Tony Robbins thing as well. Tony says that all the time that you need to learn to control your state of mind. When you control your state of mind, things can happen, right? So if you believe and 100% all day long that you're going to be a millionaire, or you're going to be working with some great people globally, or you're going to have really important thing to share when you stand up on a stage, and you have that state of mind all the time, nothing will be able to stop you, just because that's your state of mind. Some people have that state of mind 100%, 24/7, all the time. They live in that state of mind. So you need to be mindful of that, how you control your state of mind. What's going to happen is, remember, I don't know if you guys seen my last video, I talk about this quite a lot, that you as a person, or we as human beings, are not designed, or we are not being conditioned from day one to be successful. Right? We are not conditions. So anything you're doing today, you're doing because based on your values and beliefs. So keep that in mind, that when you are born, we go to schools, we go to unis, we've been told in a way, or we've been guided in a way, that we can actually work in certain places at certain times. Otherwise, what's going to happen is nobody's going to sit behind the desk, for 40, 50 years of their lives, working in a cubicle in that space for somebody else. So nobody's going to do it. But what happens is, we've been conditioned in that space that we don't even ask that question anymore. Right? This becomes a very normal thing. And I find it really strange when somebody starts a business, or, think of that example. It happened to me so many times. Like, say, for example, I put up a Facebook post saying about a few years ago, they're saying I got a job at Oracle as an enterprise architect. I'm put it on a LinkedIn. What people do is they come out and say, "Oh, congratulations, Jag." Everybody comes out and say, "Well done, everything is good. We love it. Congratulations, you've done really good." When you get a new job, but you say to somebody that I've left my job and I started a business, only 5 or 10 comments. Nobody liked my post. Only 5, 6 people liked it, and everybody else sort of commented, "Yeah, well done, okay," kind of thing, right? So what happens is, people don't believe it's the right thing. People don't have, or people, they don't want to admit it publicly that you're doing the right thing, because that's the way we've been conditioned from day one. So remember this, right? So one of the most important thing you have as an entrepreneur today is your state of mind. So you need to learn to control your state of mind. If you don't control it, it's going to be everywhere, right? So it's going to believe other people. It's going to believe what other people are saying. It's going to start to believe whatever other people's opinions are, right? Based on your business. So let me give you very quickly what's killing your business today, right? If you're running your business, if you're doing something today, what is actually killing it right now? So there are 3 things what's killing. So let's about 2 things first, right? One of the most important thing is, you don't have enough volume today, right? So let me describe this. So what it means is, most people speak to only 5 or 6 or 3 or 4 people and come back to me saying that this idea doesn't work. They come back and say that my sales script is not right, my presentation is not right. They haven't done enough calls, they haven't tried enough, they haven't gone out and collected enough data. So you don't have enough volume today. You're only speaking to 4 or 5, 6 people. You're not going out and putting yourself out there and speaking to lots and lots and lots of people. So you need to learn to understand it. You need to speak to a lot of people. You need to have a lot of sales meetings. You need to have a lot of sales calls. You need to do all that work. You need to bring in the volume. If you don't bring in the volume, you are not trying enough. What it means is, you're just basically saying that you're only working with few data and changing everything. So if your business is not growing today, if you're not doing anything, sorry, if your business is not getting to the next level, the number one thing you don't have today is thing called volume. You need to learn to add more volume, whether you do it by Facebook, whether you do by group calls, whether you do it by meetups, something need to be applied in that space. So you need to learn to that, have enough volume in that space, so that you can actually decide whether your hypotheses about your product, about your offer, about your scripts, something is right or not right, right? So let's look at this. Number one thing is not having enough volume. Number two thing, your belief system, right? This is the most important thing, like anything. As I said earlier, state of mind dictates everything. So, for example, in this, if first five people say to you that they can't afford it, that you're offering something to them, and you go to five people and you say to them, this is my product, this is how much it's going to cost. And all of the five people come back to you and say, Jack, sorry, I can't start. I believe the price is too expensive, or I don't have money. But when they come back to you with the five things, or five people come back to you, you started to believe that, holy shit, my product might be really expensive for my niche. This is the belief system we install straight away, that what's happened to us after you go into the market. But just keeping that in mind, that as I said earlier, you don't have enough volume. By speaking to five people, it does not mean that your product is of product is expensive. They just don't see the value at the moment. So let me give you an example, right? If I say to you tomorrow, um, there is a lottery coming up. Say tomorrow is Friday or Thursday here, and if tomorrow Thursday lottery is about $50 million, and that's a lottery which is going to come through, and the ticket price for that, and it's a lottery, you're going to get the lottery 100% guarantee for that, you're going to get it. But the price for the ticket is, if it's a $50 million lottery, the price for that ticket is $10 million, and it's 100% that you're going to get 50 million, and the price for the ticket is 10 million. And I truly believe that if somebody says to me that you're going to get that $50 million guaranteed, and it's a company saying to me, and the price for that is 10 million, you'll say that the people who's doing it, they'll do whatever it takes to get that $10 million, so that they can get $50 million tomorrow, right? So what it means is, for your business today, if people are coming back and saying they can't afford it, they don't have enough money, what it means is they just don't see the value at the moment, because they need to see the value. So what happens is, everything is an exchange of value. They give you their money so that they can get something from you. If they believe they're paying you $1,000, and they believe that whatever you're giving to them is not worth $1,000, they won't come back and pay you for that. So that's, just keep in mind that if you have that sort of stuff happening, that is the belief system you installing. So what do you need to do to overcome is, you need to make sure that you have enough volume in that space, right? So the next one is, my sort of other thing is, you need to just keep going. Don't have that preconceived idea. So if the five people say that to you, don't start to believe that in that space. You need to get out of that space and the belief system. Don't have a confirmation bias. So what happens is a confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is, if five people confirm it all the time, you started to believe that it is true. If five people say to you that you don't know how to speak properly, then you can start to believe that. And number six, whenever you go to that person and you speak to that person, and you're going to start making mistakes. So that number six person will start to say that this person doesn't know how to speak. So don't have that confirmation bias. You need to keep that in mind, that your belief system dictates pretty much everything happening around you, whether it's your business, whether it's your life, whatever is happening today, that's happening because of your belief system. So let me talk about this cause and effect thing, which what happens is, so this is just an example, right? So what happens is, when you started to believe in that spouse, there is a cause for that and there is an effect for that. If you started to believe that you don't have enough money, that's a cause, and the effect of that is going to be exactly, you don't have any money. So you started to get all that. So if five people say to you, no, I don't have money, I don't want to buy your product, and you started to believe that it is true, that it's my product is expensive, I need to reduce the price. And when you go to the sixth person, you're going to start to have that effect coming in. So cause and effect is the biggest thing as well, depending which side you live in. If you started to believe in the cause side, that this is what's happening, the effect's going to start showing that. It started to go in circles and circles and circles. So that's what also called the confirmation bias in the same space. That when you say to yourself enough times that this is true, and then you started to believe that in that space as well, and that started to happen. That's a cause and effect of that call. So really keep that in mind when you're in a business world, when you are as an entrepreneur, you're running something, your business works exactly as your belief system today. If you believe that your products are expensive, they're going to be expensive. If you believe that your products are cheap, it's going to be cheaper. If you believe tomorrow you're going to make 10 calls and you're going to get 6 out of them, that's your belief system. That is true for you. So keep that in mind, that your belief system dictating the world. So start talking to the actual market. Go out there and test your product, service, and record the feedback. No emotional judgment yet. So let me sort of explain this bit better. So what happens is when you are in, so how do you actually do that? Number one thing you need to do is going out and start talking to the actual market. Go out and test your product, services, your script, and everything what you got, and start recording their feedback. But don't get involved in that emotional judgment and start to judge what are you doing until you make plus or 20 plus calls. You need to have enough data to make or understand that you are making or doing the right thing, right? So just keep that in mind, that don't just start to emotionally attach to the results straight away. If one person comes back and saying, your product is shit, I don't like it, your value proposition is shit as well, don't get emotionally attached there. That's just one person's opinion. So emotions and business are totally different things, right? So until you make 20 plus calls or have 20 plus meetings, everything else is irrelevant in that time. Before that, just started to make 20 plus calls. So number 3 things. So we talked about 3 things, right? So what's killing your business? Number 1 is not enough volume. So you need to learn to have enough volume coming into your business. Number 2 is your belief system. If you started to believe something is right, it is right for your business or it's right for your life. So your belief system is the biggest thing as well. So number 3 thing is not tracking anything or not tracking enough. So I always say that you need to learn to track everything in your business. So what it means is, if you're making a sales call, you need to learn what the person says. You need to, if you're presenting to somebody else, I don't know if you guys looked at it, whenever I do something or any presentation, I start to record every presentation I do. My 3 days workshop, we recorded it. My other presentation, I've got Andrew at the back recording it as well. So the reason for that is I want to record my call so I can actually go back and review it later, right? That's the only reason. So my mind doesn't remember what I did right or wrong. My mind will only remember little bits and pieces, but what I need to learn is, how did I do the starting bit? How did I do the closing? How I did the presentation? I need to see all that bits as well. So from your business perspective, if you're making sales calls, if you're doing something, make sure you record it. Do the sales calls by Zoom, do the sales calls by Skype, where you can actually start recording stuff, record your calls, record your videos. Some people are recording it, and I know some of you guys are recording it, but you're not using it later to review it. You need to learn to review it later down the track as well. If you're not reviewing it, if you're not doing it, so what's going to happen is there's no point in doing it, right? So there are 3 steps. Number 1 step is you track everything. Make sure you track everything you do, record every sales calls you do. You need to have enough data, means that you need to make 20 plus calls. You need to have 20 plus calls in that space. If you don't have 20 plus calls before everything else, what you're doing is you're creating your belief system. You need to have enough data. You need to have enough volume in that space. So start recording your calls and start seeing it or start using it to review it, right? So don't review it before 20, but record all of them. So say, for example, you record 10, 18 calls altogether, you'll see the pattern. What are the mistakes you're making in those calls? Then you can do iterations and improvements after that, right? So that's how the cycle goes. So what's the solution, right? So you need to understand the law of nature, right? So this is the law of the nature. Sometimes things just won't work out, right? Sometimes that's the way things are. Things won't work out. The law of probability, exactly the way I said it earlier, if you remember it, When you toss it, it doesn't come back 50-50 all the time. Even though we say it's a 50-50, even we say law of probability is 50-50, but it's not going to be 50-50 all the time. It's not going to be, heads today. When you do it again, it's going to be tail, heads and tails, heads and tails, heads and tails. It doesn't work this way, right? Remember this. It's going to be sometime you're going to make 6 calls and all of them going to say no. Sometime you might do 5 events or 3 events or 2 events. None of people are going to buy it, right? That's the way the world works. So it doesn't mean anything wrong in your space. It just means that things just not going to work out. You need to have enough volume. You need to have enough calls, at least 20 calls, sales meetings before you start to make any changes. Judgments only after 20 plus calls. Don't judge before that. Make sure that you don't get into the space where you start to listen to people's opinions. As I said earlier, you need to listen to people. You need to listen to people's opinions, but only for those people either you consider your mentors or your coach, or the people who are your potential clients. Don't listen to those people who you don't want your life to be like, who you don't want to be, or you don't consider as your mentor. So if you listen to people like that, what's going to happen is everybody's got an opinion, right, today. So what's going to happen is they're going to try to drag you back into their space all the time. They're going to tell you everything, and it'll be really hard for you to keep track of everything, what's going to happen. So changes, review the feedback, make the changes. Review the feedback, make the changes. So it's very simple. So let's recap. So one more thing, what's going wrong today? Number one thing is emotions will ruin your business. And that's the number one thing, right? To make sure that you don't run your business based on your emotions. Sometimes you're going to feel like doing things. Sometimes you feel like making calls. Sometimes you don't feel like getting out of the bed. Sometimes you feel like making only 2 calls. Sometimes you're not going to feel nice. So don't let your emotion dictate it. Your best friend is, what's your best friend in the business is? Data. Data is your best friend. So I'll give you an example of my event, which is pretty strange. So one of the events I did a few months ago, and that event was one of the biggest successful events I've seen, right? So it means that the ad done really well. The Facebook ad was really cool. A lot of people turned up at that event. And I had about 35 to 40 people turning up at that event. It was completely packed event. And once that event is finished, there was about 35 people in that room. So I only managed to make 1 sale at the end. Just 1 sale. Think of that. Just 1 sale. So I had about 35 people in the room, just 1 sale. I was actually I wasn't happy, right? You can think that my emotions started coming. So I was not happy in that space. So I came back home. I still was living in that emotional world. So the event was on Saturday. I lived in that emotion the entire day on Saturday. But what happened on Sunday was pretty amazing. Then I said, hang on, let's look at the stat. Let's look at the data, right? Let's not get into the emotions into that space. So what happens is in that space is, so I had only 1 sale who came and bought the stuff from me. But what happens is one of the other guy who came in as well, he became my one-on-one client in that space. So he was my one-on-one client, which is pretty expensive compared to the courses. You guys get into that as well. One-on-one, like I'm working one-on-one with those guys in their business and helping them to their business level, get to the next level. That's a one-on-one client. And one-on-one client is highly paying. I only get to work with 4 to 5 people at one point in time. So I had a space available. Those guys approached me and they became one-on-one clients. So what it means is, if I look at the data, that event considered to be one of my best events, right? But when I started to look at, I only made 1 sale because nobody bought my course. What it means is I was getting into the emotional space of that and meaning to feel that at the time that nothing worked out for me. And that, so what it means to say is emotion will ruin your business. Don't get into the emotional stuff. Your best friend in the business is the data. So always look at the data. So if we only made 4 calls, what it means, that you have or haven't done enough calls. You need to do enough, at least 20 calls. The other thing is, you say, for example, you come into this course and you're saying, oh, I'm not getting any results and this and that, but how much work have you put in place? Look at the data as well, right? You need to look at the data. If you're saying that I need to get results within a week or 2 weeks and I'm not getting any results, how much work have you done? How much study have you done in that space? So always look at the data. If you're not looking at the data, you're running your business and life based on emotions. So data is your best friend. Look at the data all the time. So let's recap everything. You need to have enough volume to make decisions. Don't make your decisions based on everything, right? So you need to have, make sure you really need to have that. You need to have enough data. So you need to have enough volume. Don't only make judgments after 20 plus calls. If you made 20 plus calls, if you've spoken to enough people, then you want to change something after speaking to 20 people. If you're presented to more than 20 people, if you have spoken to 20 people, then you make a decision after that. Don't do that before that. So after those 20 plus calls, then review the feedback and make changes, right? So data is your best friend, as I said earlier. Data is your best friend. So that's one of the big things stopping you right now. So if you are in this space and you're not going ahead today, you need to look at this presentation. This is what's going on in most people right now, right here, right? So this was about it. So what's stopping you right now? So make sure that, just going back, you need to learn to control your state of mind. Learn to control your state of mind. So once you learn that, that's the biggest thing, right? So let's have a look very quickly where we at. All right, guys, before we get into the next level, any other question you guys have? Any questions on this? Any questions? Not? Yes, no, please type it in. So raise your hand if you got any question. In the meantime, what I'll do is, I had a quick look at Simon's presentation. So I just want to walk Simon through. Simon, if you're here, just say hi and let's walk through your presentation, my friend. Let's do it. So I'm just going to look at your presentation and sort of review it. All right, let's do this. I'm just going to bring it to that side. All right, any other questions? Please type it in. Let's look at Simon's presentation. All right, Simon, just look at very quickly before we close the call. So let's look at your blockchain presentation, payment system innovation. So let's look at it. Simon, first question I have is who this presentation is for. How are you planning to present it? Because if you going out to the shops and speaking to people there, when are you going to show this presentation? Are you planning to show this presentation at the event you're organizing, or are you getting people at, walking to the shops and doing the presentation? So I really need to understand that concept behind how you're doing it, because if you're doing this way, then yeah, the presentation will be a bit different, right? So let's look at it very quickly. So what we have here. So Ethereum, Litecoin, Bitcoin accepted here, IBM implementation blockchain now. So nobody's using it. Bitcoin is a scam. Internet is a fad. It will disappear. So, all right. So let's cryptocurrency payment, point of sale system, online payment portal, self-management of money and market, low transaction fees. Yeah, that's the advantage. Why? What are benefits? Yeah, these are the benefits. Numbers. Visa charge this much, PayPal charge this much, how much you charge, 0.9 cents, Ethereum. All right, so this is the cost for that. Many new use existing hardware. All right, cool, people can use it. Speed comparisons, self-managed APIs, main applications, transaction tracking, transaction security. All right. That's cool, Simon. I think we need to have a chat about this this presentation a bit more in detail, trying to understand the context behind it. Because information is good. I like the information, which is very good, but I don't see a why at the moment, why people need to see this presentation. What's in this presentation that people don't available on or have it available on the internet? What's the reason? Right? Why would I want to sit there and look at this presentation? It doesn't talk about who you are, whose Lazarus blockchain systems are, what have you guys been doing, what do you do? So you need to add a bit of stuff about you and your dad and your team, who you have. So we at least know who you people are, right? So we need to give that sort of information in the context of that. And also, I think you need to understand that, give people a bit of context. So what is this presentation for? Like, what are we doing here? So I don't understand the context of this presentation at the moment, but let's have a chat on this on the side and see what we're doing and where we at in this space. So I can actually understand it a bit more. I might not be, or might not have a clear understanding of this, what are you trying to do in this space, but let's have that clear understanding on this, right? So at least we can have a chat on this space. All right, so let's open up the Q&A now. So see if we get Murray. Any question from your side? Please type it in the chat if you have any questions. So one of the things, Maria, I want to highlight that to you. If you could speak to Maria, she's going to give you a call. I think she tried calling you earlier as well. Let's have a catch up with Maria so that we understand where you're at. And also, we got a 3-day workshop coming up end of this month. We want to make sure that you're attending that. So, Maria, can you please confirm that Maria, we're going to call you. So she's going to call you to understand that whether you'll be attending. So confirm that 26, 27, 28, you'll be attending the workshop with us. We just need to know the numbers. Alrighty. Any other questions? So one of the things we want to know more about it. I think most of you guys are going to be watching this later. So I'll leave it open for 30 seconds before we close this call, if there's no questions. All right. Any other question before we close the call, guys? Yes, no, no, yes. All right. So if there is no question, so you know where we are. Please type anything on the Facebook group. If you got any question, please reach out to us. Me and Maria will be happy to help you in anything you have. Please have a chat with us anytime. Book a call with us if you need any help with anything. Don't stay away. Don't try to hide. Don't see that. Don't get into that doubt space, right? If you stay in the doubt space, what's going to happen? There won't be any action. So don't stay in that doubt space, right? So come out of the doubt space. All right. Speak to you guys soon, and reach out to us if you need anything. All right, guys. Speak to you soon. Thank you. See you later.